This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbroadcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Do Go On. My name is Dave Warnicky and as always I'm here with Jess Perkins and Matt Stewart.
Hi, I'm Matt Stewart and
Hi, I'm Jess Perkins.
So good to be here. We have smoothed that out because that was becoming a bit clumsy not too long ago. So it is good that we've got that working a lot nicer.
It used to be really unpredictable, but now it's like we've just got this beautiful structure where we both just know exactly what we're going to say and what order we say it in. And it just flows.
Well, let me just say there's another person here who may also know what to say. Please welcome in our special guest. It's Andy Matthews. Hi, Andy.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me here on the show about introductions and how well they've gone.
Yes.
And, that's so good.
And how do you think yours went?
As a long-term fan of the podcast, might I say, it's good to see that you haven't got any more comfortable with the concept of introducing yourselves or explaining what the podcast does. Because as soon as you lose that, for me, you've sold out. And
Okay. Yeah. We get some big sponsor
I think
in.
250 episodes, you're keeping it fresh. I love it. Each one is like the very first time.
This is some of the nicest feedback we've ever had.
Thank you so much, Andy.
I appreciate that.
Andy, listeners will know you from a previous visit to the Do Go On podcast show where you talked about some sort of scientist?
Sir Isaac Newton, that's right.
Sir Isaac Newton, that's right. And I think about that all the time when I don't want to. And that thing about him poking himself through the eye hole. And I can't stop thinking about it. I'm like, fuck you, Andy. And then
you're like, how do I get this out of my head? I know. I'll get a pointed stick and I'll drive it from my brain. Yeah, it's a common thing that a lot of people go through. Yeah.
But you're back. It's so good to have you back. You're also a regular on all of the podcasts in this podcast network. You've been on Primates
regular
many
is a
times.
strong word.
You've been on Book Cheat.
Yes.
And you also do your own podcast on the Planet Broadcasting Network called Two in the Think Tank, where you come up with 5 sketches with your comedy writing friend Alistair Tremblay-Birchall.
God, now see, you bring some of that introductory confidence to the Do Go On podcast, Matt, and you will really be on fire.
Look, if I was in Dave's spot, I reckon I could make it real smooth every time. He leads us in and it sort of walks us right off a cliff at the start every week.
Oh, so you think it's hard? You don't think I should say, I'm here with Matt and Jess. You want me to speak for you? Is that what you'd like me to do?
No,
I'm here with Matt. He's a good guy. And I'm here with Jess. She's a great stand-up comedian, radio host. Anyway, let's start the show. Is that what you want?
That's better. That would be better. If you could take it out of our hands
Clip that.
as much as possible.
Clip that out. And,
Put that up.
Yeah,
I love that I gave Jess a couple of credits and said Matt is a good guy. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Matt, you're also a good comedian.
No, honestly, that's my number one priority in life is to be a good guy. All that other stuff is just cream on the cake.
Yeah, that's right.
Or in the cake. Cream goes in the cake, doesn't it?
No, I don't think
icing's
so.
on the cake.
We don't know.
Cake you make
Yeah,
it.
you make weird stuff. You have wrong orders with things.
Why are you putting cream in a cake? Ugh.
Anyway, Andy is, so his podcast on the Think Tank also is a live performing comedy duo with Alistair Tremblay-Birchall.
That's right.
And you put together a live show which is streaming on SOS Presents. Is that right, Andy?
SOS Presents, you can go along and get it. You can get our critically acclaimed show from the Comedy Festival last year, Magma. And if you're one of the enormous sector of the online community who is just crying out for a comedy engineering presentation about the world-building potential of liquid hot magma, then this is the show for you. We encourage you to watch it. It is, I think, funny. And, if I think it's funny, that means it might be pretty good.
It is.
Pretty good.
I saw it live at the Comedy Festival and it was very, very funny. And it was one of those almost annoying shows where everyone is talking about it and no one's talking about my show. You know that? You know that feeling?
And you actually, I remember you stood up in the audience and you said, all right, we get it. You've got a show called Magma. Why don't you talk about my show?
Yeah.
And we said, Matt, you're right. And we dedicated the remaining 59 minutes of the hour show
They jumped in early, didn't I?
Can I just say that I also saw the show last year with Jess. We went along one night and saw it, and it was the funniest show I saw last year, and I also saw Matt's show, so...
Yeah.
Oh, my God. This is getting uncomfortable.
Wait, was last year when you directed my show, Dave?
Look, I'm not
Yes, and we paid him handsomely to ensure that your show wasn't better than ours. So it's good to see we got our money's worth.
Well, I saw the show at the Comedy Festival, and then Andy and Elle did a couple of sort of encore performances at the Butterfly Club later in the year, which I bought tickets to, and I missed it because I got the time wrong in my own head. And so by the time I realised the show was starting, I hadn't left my house yet. So, look, they got my money and sort of my financial support, but definitely not my my laugh in the crowd that night. But I've since watched it again on SOS Presents.
And that is the beauty of the
just
stream.
hoovering money out of the jet.
The beauty of the stream is it doesn't matter if you realise that the show's about to start when you're still at home, because that's perfect. Just press play. You could that could be any moment of the day.
Yeah.
In fact, it would be a nightmare if you showed up at the Butterfly Club only to then realise that that you were supposed to be watching it at home. But even then, you could probably do it over your phone.
Yeah.
So
just sit outside the Butterfly Club in an alleyway.
Highly recommend people check that out. And there'll be a link in the show notes, which we know everyone reads. So click on that and you can go all the way there. And while you're there, you can also buy tickets to our upcoming live streams. We're doing 4 live streams. I can't remember too many of the details of them, but I think they start sometime in November and then sometime in December. But the details will be in the show notes there.
Let me just take over there, Matt, just to take some confusion out of the first one is on the 22nd of November, Melbourne time. But we are doing 4 different, so it's 4 weekly shows, and they're all at different times because this is a world tour. So there's some that cater to every single time zone.
All 4 of them.
But you can also...
We're going to cover all 4 time zones. We're that good.
We're that good.
Whichever of the 4 hemispheres you live in will cater to you.
Easy peasy. Don't worry about it.
But like Andy's show, you can also catch up online. So even if you're not awake at the 3 a.m. one, just watch the next day. You'll be right.
Yeah, it's fine.
And
I've got to say, I love this world tour concept. I when I heard about it, I thought that's really bloody good.
That means a lot, Andy. Thank you.
Thank you.
So
and I'm
much,
sorry
Andy.
if anyone heard some jingling, some little jingle bells in the background of that excellent explanation. I was trying to chase the cat out of the room, and she was being very evasive.
They like that, aren't they?
I love the word trying, like he didn't succeed.
Oh, no, I didn't. In the end, she went into a different room, and I just had to lock her in there.
Now, Andy, you've not only dropped by to plug your sweet comedy show, which we would have done anyway. It was just a coincidence you were here.
Now the cat is meowing really loudly, trying to get out of that room. Matt, you just carry on with that introduction. Just keep it
all right,
rolling.
I'll build it up. I'll keep building it until you sit back in front of that microphone. So,
All right.
Andy's not only here to plug his fantastic comedy show Magma with Alistair Tremblay-Birchall. He's also here, and we're so lucky to have him back here. He's here to tell us a story about something. Just Dave and I don't know what it is, and this is how the show normally works. One of the 3 of us, in this case, one of the 4 of us, researches a topic, and they bring the research they committed to paper, usually, or in some cases onto the screen of their computer, and then they'll read out that report back to us because they've just lathered themselves up in the knowledge of this
you've
topic.
Done so well.
And this week, Andy is going to be doing this topic today, and we always start the topic with a question. Andy, what is your question today?
My question to you is, if you had to be held up by an 18th century bushranger, oh, wait, that should be 19th century. God. If you had to be held up...
Sorry, I've already started thinking about my favourite 18th century. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Give me a second here to recalibrate.
If you had to be held up by a 19th century bushranger, who would be the best one to get?
Oh, it's got to have gentleman in his name. Is it Gentleman Dan or something?
Gentleman Dan would be my choice, yeah. Because
My
he was
goodness.
known for giving people money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
He'd be like, well, I'm a bushranger. Do you want a mansion? Here you go.
they called him Gentleman Dan to his face, but behind the scenes, they called him Dumbass Dan.
I don't know. I mean, we've done Ned Kelly before, but he was 18th century, wasn't he? Who else was there?
He was also 19th century. So 19th century is the 1800s.
Yeah, right.
This
Because
is
the
what tripped me up.
I always get confused with Australian colonial history. The 1700s is when the British came, is it? Yeah, that's
so
right.
Late
first fleet.
1700s.
So it was 1800s. That's right. Everything happened in the late 1800s in terms of the stuff we learn in primary school about the thousands of years of Australian history. We learn about 20 years in the 1800s where Burke and Will set off, Ned Kelly was around, and
Correct.
A boat. There was some sort of boat stuff as well.
The only one other name that comes to mind is Captain Moonlight. Is that one?
Yeah, he is one, I believe, but that is not correct. Matt was absolutely on the money with the word gentleman.
Oh, really?
We are talking today about Matthew Brady, Gentleman Bushranger. So incredible instincts.
Oh,
Wow.
My alternative title for this episode was Matthew Brady, Tasmanian Bushranger, which is very exciting to me as a Tasmanian. And that's what drew me unto him. But I thought his, he was also known as the Gentleman Bushranger, and that has a certain appeal.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's where we're going today.
He robs you up and then he shines your shoes and gives you a breath mint or something.
Yeah.
I think you're thinking of a sort of a servant or possibly an Uber driver. But
I've mashed up Uber drivers and servants there. I'm thinking of Niles from The Nanny.
yes. All right. So, shall we get into it?
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm excited. This sounds great.
Here we go. Matthew Brady, also known as Matthew Brady, was born in Manchester in around 1798 to Irish parents. So he would have considered himself Irish. I think that that was the time when you were Irish from Irish stock.
Yep.
He would have thought of himself as an Irishman.
Matt still tries to claim it, so no surprises.
Yeah, I'm
I
more
do
than
too,
50% Irish. So
I'm like, yeah, both sides of my family are Irish, but, we've been here for 5 generations. I'm like, yeah, I'm basically Irish. Yeah, I can river dance.
I did think of myself that way until I met an Irish person traveling in Europe, and I said that, and she told me to fuck off.
Yeah.
I've stopped thinking of myself that way since. She's like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
She's like, you get that. She said she gets it all the time.
Yeah.
And it's annoying. And I said, fair enough. You're totally right.
You're absolutely right.
You're absolutely right.
I still think of myself as a Homo erectus. So
Right, yeah.
I wish I'd chosen a thing that didn't have erect in the name.
No, you're
all the human ancestors.
You went for Homo erectus. You may as well have just said, I've got a stiffy, You
yeah.
idiot.
You're right. I should have said that. That's why I was so disappointed with myself.
You think of yourself as Gentleman Stiffy.
Yeah. The stiff bushranger. And now, as a young man, Matthew Brady, or Brady, the breadster, was a groom for the horses of a wealthy family, by which I assume he was a groom.
Yeah, he married them.
I've actually got that written down as the joke here that I was about to do, by which I assume he was getting married to the horses. We're on the same page, Jess. I like
that.
He apparently had a good sense of humour and he was well-spoken and wrote a good hand. So you can see what the horses saw in him. Jeff, all right?
He wrote a good hand.
Wrote a good hand, yeah.
That's what I look for in a groom.
Yeah.
Sense of humour, well-spoken, writes a good hand.
A good hand.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know
Not
what
so
it
good with
means.
any of the other words, but if you wanted the word hand written,
Yeah.
That's right.
He
He
was-
specialises in calligraphy with those letters. Or any
and
combination.
back in the day, you could make a career of that. It was a simpler time.
Especially in the horse industry, because that's what they measure their height in.
Yes.
So that would come up a bit.
Yep.
How tall is your wife? Well, 4 hands.
Let me
That's a
write
short
it out.
horse.
That's a short horse. I like them dainty.
the Shetland
Married
wife.
to a pony.
Come on, mate. You keep telling us you're married to a horse. Or you're married to a pony. Be honest.
Come on.
And he was apparently very well liked by the family that he worked for until he turned to crime. And there are different versions of what his actual crime was. One version has it, he stole a basket, a firkin of butter, a 12-pound filch of bacon, 30 pounds of sugar, and 2 of rice. The total value of which goods was 5 shillings.
Can you convert that? Can you convert that all to firkins, please?
Yeah.
Just not familiar
Jeez,
with
there's a
most.
couple of words there that don't exist anymore that should. Firkins. What was the other one? Pounds.
A firkin of butter and a 12-pound filch of bacon.
Filch.
Yep.
Beautiful word.
Filch.
A beautiful word.
It is. It's on the borderline of not being beautiful.
Yeah.
But it just stays just on the
You
safe
flip
side.
a vowel around
Absolutely
there,
right.
and it really turns a nasty corner.
Fulch. Not
Yeah,
good.
But exactly, Jess. Exactly, and thank you. So that's and the recipients of all of this stolen goods were apparently 2 19-year-old girls, both single, of the town. Now that's one version, okay, and the other version is that he committed forgery. So
Okay.
two slightly different stories, perhaps, unless he forged the bacon.
Yeah.
He was really ham.
That's right. It wasn't a filch of bacon at all. It was a firkin of ham. Now, one of those stories I got from the website of a cider company, and the other one I got from his official convict transfer record. And I'll leave it up to you to decide which was which and which is more plausible.
Well, the cider company, obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, the cider company. Now this was in the era of convict transportation. Okay, so he was caught for this crime, and he was sentenced to the standard term of 7 to 10 years. So England jails at the time were just filthy and overcrowded, and also, handily enough, they had a need for workers in the new colony of Australia. And so they started this campaign of transporting convicts, which started in 1788 with the first fleet, which is, famous in Australia. We had, had the bicentennial in 1988. And is Australia Day on the day of the arrival of the first fleet, or is it on the day of...
Oh.
Yeah, isn't it the first day the first fleet drove into Botany Bay?
They drove in.
Yeah, they backed it up.
They drove
Am I doing back there?
overland.
Am I doing back there? Plenty of room.
Should have got me to do it, eh? Should have got me to do it.
Jess, the best parker in the group.
Such a good park. I'll never forget that park
oh
in
my
London.
God.
Oh my God.
Oh,
What a
it could
park.
not have been. It could not have been better. Millimeter.
Yeah. It was like you've been driving big rigs your whole life.
Oh,
Couldn't believe it.
there was not a firkin in it. You absolutely nailed it. They call you Firkin Perkins.
So over the next 80 years, there would be 160,000 convicts transported in total to Australia, and this was all by boat, obviously. And these are voyages. The voyage of the first fleet took 250 days to get from England to Australia. But he was transported not to Botany Bay, but to Van Diemen's Land in 1820, also now known as Tasmania. And Tasmania at this time had been undergoing invasion by British settlers for about 20 years. So to put that into some context, before the colonisation of Australia, there were maybe around 15,000 Palawa people. That's the indigenous Tasmanians. And then they were subject to an extremely brutal armed genocide over the next century, and they're still trying to reassert their culture. I would recommend, and I'm not in any way qualified to do justice to that story because we are not taught anything about that in school, or at least I wasn't. But I'd recommend that you listen to a podcast called Frontier War Stories by Bo Spearham, and he has an episode about the Aboriginal resistance in Tasmania.
Cool.
And maybe we'll put a link to that in the show notes.
We'll
Matt.
put
What
a
do you
link to
reckon?
that in the show notes for sure.
Put a bloody link to it, mate. Yeah,
Put a
I
link
listened
in.
to that episode, and he talks to an academic and historian, and it's really interesting, and it taught me a huge amount that I had no idea about, and I felt like a real idiot. But it was great to know.
I wonder how the kids are doing now. Like, it was so inadequate what we got taught about Australian history.
Oh, mate.
I wonder if it's changed much.
I tell you, the main thing that I learned was that Captain James Cook was considered really good to his men. That's what I learned. So that's
Great.
relevant. That seems
Yeah.
pretty relevant, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a good guy.
Just a
good
real
guy.
hero.
I genuinely thought that until about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
What an idiot.
Well, I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
you
same,
taught that from a
same.
young age. Of course, you're going to keep believing it. I believed until recently that the bruises on bananas were the bits that were the best for you. I believed that well into adulthood.
I was throwing away the rest.
I looked it up, and the first fleet arrived at where it says on the 20th of January. So I don't know where
Right.
the 26th comes
Took
from.
'em
Is
while
that
to
the
back
day
it
that
in.
they first hoisted a flag? Is that possibly something like that?
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah, maybe.
Well, no wonder it's such a proud day for us as Australians.
Yeah.
Whatever happened that day.
yeah.
Mm.
God, we love it.
Yeah. And we really love to get drunk and wear flags about it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So Brady was sent to the Port Arthur prison initially, which international, and this is not an exactly jolly start to the episode, but people internationally might know about Port Arthur because in later years it became a tourist attraction, and in 1996 there was a lone gunman massacre there, which killed 35 people, and that was what led to Australia basically having the gun laws that it does and banning all sorts of different guns. And I've got to say, it's worked out fine.
Yeah,
I haven't needed a gun recently.
it's true. And that was a conservative government in Australia who brought that in at the time, which is maybe
that's
the
right.
only way it was going to happen somehow.
You know what? It's kind of true.
Because,
Because if they hadn't been in power, they would have fought it.
yeah, they would have played it for politics probably.
Yeah.
Which is what
With their
opposition,
bloody-minded.
like maybe back then. I don't know. Am I being nostalgic when I think that oppositions didn't necessarily block everything back in the day? I think I am. It's probably always been like it is now, and politics has always been played, but there wasn't this
I think
noble
that Gough
time.
Whitlam might disagree with you, Matt.
Sorry.
I think Gough Whitlam might take issue with you on that.
Yeah. Right.
Don't remember any kind of conflict really at all. It was just sort of friendship and handshakes most of the
It was
time.
basically one party back then.
Yeah, and they really meant party.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So if you're unlucky, you're sent to the island of Australia, right? And if you're really unlucky, you're sent from there to the island of Tasmania. And if you cause too much trouble there, they send you to a tiny island on the west coast in Macquarie Harbour called Sarah Island, right? And that's where during the day. This is on the west coast. Even today, the west coast of Tasmania is incredibly isolated, right? It gets what is called the roaring 40s winds, which are it has some of the freshest air in the world because there are just winds that have been accelerating the entire way across the Atlantic Ocean until they get to the coast of Australia from South America. And it's extremely wild and extremely mountainous and rugged and very, very wet. And that's where we get Huon pine wood from. Does anyone know about Huon pine? You guys know about Huon pine?
I've heard of the
I've
Huon
heard of it.
Valley. Is that something?
Huon Valley? Yeah, it's very relevant. Yes, that's where you get some of the Huon pine.
Makes sense. That adds up for
Huon
sure.
pine.
Is this the kind of area you would have done a trek on as a teenager for some sort of a charity or something? It feels like something you would have done.
Absolutely right. This is right up that particular national park. Yes, that sort of bit. There's about a third of Tasmania is taken up with the Southwest National Park, which is one of the biggest untouched rainforests in Australia. And Huon pine grows there. It grows incredibly slowly, right? Thousands and thousands of year-old trees, but it also has a natural oil in it, which means that it never rots.
Wow.
And it makes it the perfect material for making ships for. So they were getting this this timber, and it smells really nice as well. So you get a real nice smelling boat, which I think would be very relevant after several months at sea.
Yeah. And it only takes
Especially when you
thousands of years to grow it. That's great.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so they decimated it, really.
Can't wait to lop those down. Oh,
I'll plant a seed. That'll be all right.
It's now illegal to cut down any Huon pine trees in Tasmania, but they still find old logs because it just never rots. They find old logs like buried in the dirt.
amazing.
And they dig them up and
Wow.
they use that. So it could have been just lying there for hundreds of years and it's still good.
Wow.
Never goes off.
That's fascinating. Love that mini wood report in the middle of this report.
Yeah, wow.
This is the whole reason for this report, so that I would get to talk about Huon pine. You've spotted me there.
But you also mentioned a place called Sarah Island.
Sarah Island. Yes, thank you for getting me back on track. So
But it's
Sarah
not a very
Island, this is where
interesting name for an island, is it?
But does she ever rot?
well, I think there were a few rotters there. Sorry, that's terrible. That's such a bad. Yuck. Yeah. It's quite a nice bland name for an island, but this had a reputation as basically the worst penal colony in Australia. It was you did not want to end up there. If you kept trying to escape from Port Arthur, they sent you there, right? And Brady was trying to escape, so they sent him there. But if you tried to escape from Sarah Island, which wasn't easy because it was in the middle of this harbour, and surrounded by this massive forest that you wouldn't be able to get through even if you got to shore. If you tried to escape from Sarah Island, you were, and I quote, "The irreclamables were imprisoned on a strip of rock called Pilot Island, to which they were forced to wade through the surf, carrying provisions upon their backs to see them through their turn, and even the cells carved out for them in the rocks. They were not protected from the drenching spray when the gales blew in from the ocean." Right? So he was on an island, off an island, off an island, off an island.
Wow.
If they could have found a smaller island to send you to off Pilot Island, I'm sure they would have.
Babushka Islands. So they
Babushka Islands, Babushka prisons.
are they? What? Why is he? He doesn't sound like he's the worst of the worst, though. He sounds like he's a likable guy.
He was a likable guy, and when he got to Sarah Island, they were like, "This guy, he's such a hard worker. I think he's a good bloke." But what he was really always busy doing was trying to work out a way to escape.
Right.
So he was very motivated to do that. But people liked him, but yes, he wanted out.
He did do I forget that he did a pretty bad crime of maybe stealing a small picnic basket
Yeah.
or forging.
I think
the
it was
word
a
ham.
Crisco hamper. Yeah.
It was a Crisco hamper that he gave to two 19-year-olds.
That's right.
What a monster.
The ladies. So it's said to be impossible to escape from this island. And it was from this penitentiary that Brady and 14 others made their escape on the 7th of June, 1824. So the group stole a boat, right? They basically, as the soldiers were coming ashore in a boat, I think the prison surgeon and some soldiers were coming ashore on a little boat, and they basically charged the boat, pushed the soldiers into the water, okay, so that their muskets got wet, I guess, their guns got wet. They got wet as well, and then they kidnapped the surgeon. So some of them kidnapped the surgeon, and they were going to flog him, give him a damn good flogging. And but he'd been really kind to Brady on the island, so Brady stopped them from basically beating up this surgeon. And this is apparently when he became the leader of the gang.
Flog him it's an interesting phrase because I thought you meant sell him. You flog him
Yeah.
off. But you meant flog him as in hit him.
No. I meant they were going to sell him off, and Brady said, no. He's been good to me. I'll keep him on as my private surgeon. No, they were going to beat him.
Yeah, right.
And then they didn't.
And this is back in the days where you're talking about soldiers. They're like, they're like little toy soldiers with big tall hats and bright red jackets, and they're kind of ridiculous. They feel like they'd be easy to push over.
Yeah.
Yeah, very top heavy because of those tall hats. I don't know what these ones would have looked like. I think they would have been pretty rough themselves as well. Like it's really hard to get to. They can't grow their own provisions or anything there. It all has to be resupplied by sea to boats to this prison. So and it's all just guys out there. Everyone would be filthy. Everyone would stink. It would just be, I think, just horrible. Just horrible. So I also read that Brady's size and strength made him the undisputed leader of the gang.
Oh, wow.
And I wanted to know how tall he was. But they have this on his transportation record. Would you like to guess how tall Brady was?
Well, if he's so intimidatingly tall, I'd guess 6'5" or something.
Yeah, close.
I think back then, they were shorter back then. So I'm going to say 5'6".
Really close. 5'5.5".
I'm bigger than that guy. I would have been the top dog on this ship.
You would?
Dave?
Oh, good Lord, he's a giant.
Sit
Do what he
down,
says.
boys.
And then I was like, how tall must everyone else have been? I looked it up, and the average height of men born in 1800 in England was 5'5".
Yeah, right.
So he had a half an inch on them, maybe.
Wow.
But
Oh, wow.
maybe he was standing on a box or something like that. And
He was wearing those lift shoes.
yeah.
Wearing platform shoes.
What do you call that? A Caribbean heel or something? What do they call that? A
Cuban heel?
It was the Cuban heels. Yeah.
Though I do like Caribbean heel. That's
Yeah,
exotic.
that sounds fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It is good.
They've got steel drums inside of them.
Very good. If you want to know a bit more about him, apparently he had some tattoos. He had a man and woman on his left arm, and he had the letters TB and a fish on his right arm.
Oh.
So this was all on his transportation record, which and before they had fingerprints, right? I was interested in that. I was like, oh wow! Like before you used fingerprints, having tattoos would have been like the only way to identify someone because you didn't have photography or anything like that. Like,
Wow.
and if I was a
Yeah.
criminal, I would just simply not get tattoos,
Yeah.
or possibly draw them on
Yes.
with a pen,
Change them
Yeah.
all the time.
or get some of those ones that you put on with a sponge at
Yeah.
the show, and
Yeah.
then
They were around.
2 weeks later, they're
Photography hadn't been invented, but sponge on tattoos had.
At the time, sponge-on tattoo technology was incredibly advanced, and it was one of the main forms of storytelling. They didn't have printing, but they had sponge-on tattoos.
Yeah.
So people are like,
That's
see
amazing.
this? I got this last week at the Royal Melbourne Show. Wow.
Oh.
Gather round, everyone. It's a duck on a skateboard. Fingerprints weren't used until 1910 in a court case
Wow.
in America. Yeah,
1910. Wow.
that's late, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's late.
Yeah. Later than I would have thought. Yeah.
I would have thought Sherlock Holmes would be onto that.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to escape from Macquarie Island, the way to do it was by boat, okay, from Macquarie Harbour. Otherwise, you had to go inland from the west coast through the mountains and the forest, and that's really, really rough trot. That is what Alexander Pierce attempted to do twice. Have you ever heard of Alexander Pierce?
No.
Yeah, I know the name.
No.
Yeah? You may also know him as the cannibal convict.
No.
No? He escaped from Sarah Island twice, and both times ate his fellow escapees to stay alive. The first time, they recaptured him, and he said he'd eaten them, and they assumed he was just saying that to cover for them having escaped into the bush. But the second time they caught him, he still had their bits of their bones and fingers and stuff on him, and he said he'd eaten them, and that time they believed him.
Oh.
Why? I mean,
apparently-
what's wrong with our primary schools? They're not teaching us about the cannibal convict.
This is a real
What else
gap,
are they
isn't
holding
it?
back from us?
We learn about the cannibal convict in Tasmania
Okay.
pretty early on.
Fair,
They say,
fair
don't tell
enough.
the mainlanders, but we eat people down here. Apparently, the second time they caught him, not only did he have bones and flesh of his fellow escapees on him, he still also had some of the food that they'd taken. So he'd started eating them pre-running out of food.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't a desperation thing for him, was it?
It's starting to look a bit
He
sus.
got a taste for it.
Yeah.
I'm saving that chicken for later.
Yep.
Some of the foods are perishable, cannibal. You know?
Yeah.
No, I'm going to save that yogurt for later. I'm going to eat this man here first.
He's got 80 cans of soup and baked beans. I'm not a big fan of soup.
Don't have a can opener. What are you going to do? But Brady, I reckon there's a whole episode, by the way, in Alexander Pierce. I know I've spoiled it for you, but there's a lot there.
Great. Good tip.
Yucky bloke. Don't know if you do a lot of yucky stuff. I didn't actually start with this topic. I started with a different topic, which was about a mysterious unsolved murder in Dalesford that I'd read about in a book while I was in an Airbnb. Just like on the last page of a book, it mentioned this thing, and I got a bit obsessed with researching. I thought, this is so fascinating. And the lead doctor who investigated it was called Dr. Doolittle.
No.
And I thought, well, that's funny. That's already, that's gold. That's half an hour of laughs right there. The more I read about it, the more I was like, oh no, this is just a murder, a woman who was very horribly murdered. It started to make me depressed. So anyway, let's just laugh about the idea of a doctor who can speak to animals doing the post-mortem and move on, not have to go into any of the other details. So, but anyway, they escape by boat, and 9 days later they land in the Derwent, which is the site of Hobart Town, which is the capital of the Tasmanian colony. And at once they set about an organised plan of bushranging. Brady laid down the rules for his gang. They must neither injure the defenceless nor molest females, but could kill traitors, revenge injuries, and take away anything that was likely to prove useful to them. Okay. I'm basing a lot of this on a book, by the way, from 1900 called The History of Australian Bushranging, Volume 1 by Charles White. And you can find that's on like Project Gutenberg. But that has lots of detail about all of these early bushrangers.
He does sound like a gentleman so far.
Yeah, he's laying down some rules. They seem reasonable.
And they would normally, those sort of rules, commonly bushrangers wouldn't be following that kind of gentlemanly code.
That's pretty unlikely. Like, you've already been transported. You're feeling probably pretty hard done by the community, and some of them, they weren't all petty criminals. Some of them were much rougher and more unpleasant. And if they weren't rough and unpleasant, they probably were pretty rough and unpleasant after they'd spent, all this time in the prison. There wasn't much focus on reform.
Yeah.
In the prison system at the time.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly feels like if someone keeps trying to escape, maybe sit down and have a chat to them.
Yeah.
What
are you really running from?
Yeah, what's up?
Is it the prison?
What was your dad like?
Yeah.
Can we
Just
provide some
talk.
activities here for you to make your stay more palatable?
What kind of games you like? You like card games? I'll get you a pack of cards.
There's a sign-up sheet for the table tennis. I haven't seen you around there once.
You haven't come to happy hour. It's a great time to socialise.
You got to put in.
Goodness. This is the time. This is the time at which the governor... No, I want you to have fun, guys.
No.
I'm not going to...
But you're right to press on, yeah.
Yeah. This is the time the governor of the Tasmanian colony at this time was this guy called George Arthur, Sir George Arthur. He's a very unpleasant man. Look up his career. He's involved in a lot of really bad stuff in a lot of different British colonies. And he was a real hard ass. Very interested in seeing convicts beaten. Very interested in seeing convicts hung. So at the time he had arrived in 1820, no convicts had ever been hung.
When you say hung, you mean hanged, right? Or are you talking about having a big chop? Is that what you mean? Very interested in seeing these.
He was very into
convicts.
Penile augmentation for the
penile colonies.
Is that where that comes from?
He'd misread the letter on the posting. He thought, this is hardly a penile colony at all. Is it hanged? Hanged. He liked seeing convicts hanged.
Oh, I think that's one of those ones that my dad would always correct me on as a kid.
Yeah. I think hanged is correct, but it feels wrong. So you say whatever's comfortable, weird. I reckon.
It's also, now that I'm saying out loud, weird that my dad had to correct me on that often enough as a kid.
Once a week.
But by the time he left 8 years later, 256 convicts had been hanged. So he was pretty keen on that.
Yeah.
And about a week after their escape, Governor Arthur issued the following proclamation. The Lieutenant Governor feels it necessary to announce that the party of prisoners who escaped from Macquarie Harbour have again passed into the interior. His Honour begs in the most earnest manner to call upon all settlers in their respective districts to enter into increased zeal and determination into measures for the apprehension of these robbers. To the most common understanding, not labouring under the miserable depression of personal danger means will be presented after a robbery has been committed of tracing the movements of the depredators, and so on. He goes on and on and on and on and on, this message that he's sending out, basically saying, these guys are real bad and we want to get them and there will be a reward for you.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he got this message out. I guess he sent out horse riders to different groups or something like that. At this time, there were about...
I have to recall a 7-minute message off by heart. In summary, we don't mind if you kill them.
Yeah, they'd go into about a month of rehearsals beforehand.
There was our
and it's all
understudies
set to
just
a
in
tap
case people
routine.
got sick.
Yeah, exactly. But pretty soon the Brady gang they steal some guns from a retired military officer, and but he did manage to capture some of them, and they were immediately placed on trial and hanged. So about 4 of them, I think, got caught and hanged straight away. But the others got away, and the settlers were immediately very freaked out because their convict servants. So this is the other thing. The convicts aren't all in the prisons, right? They're sent out to all the different houses and properties around Tasmania as basically, servant labour. They'd be sent out with a few soldiers to keep an eye on them, but they're chained up and they're made to, quarry rock and build buildings and that sort of thing. But they're not free, and they definitely don't like being treated in this way. So all the settlers are terrified that this gang is going to show up and all their convicts are going to turn against them and kill them. And indeed, this more or less happens. Whenever Brady shows up at a property, the convicts are desperate to join his gang. And even those who didn't join them were still helping them by passing on information, giving them supplies and that sort of thing. So all the population of convicts are basically on their side. There's about 5,000 settlers and probably more convicts on the island than there are settlers.
Is it? So you were saying before, I always sort of believed that idea that a lot of the convicts were in trouble for stealing a loaf of bread. That's sort of the stereotype. But you reckon it's a bigger mix than that? There are some violent criminals that were sent down as well?
Yeah, it was this kind of it was this mandatory thing where if you got a second sentence, so it's sort of like mandatory sentencing, if you were arrested and sentenced more than once, you were automatically transported. And I think in that it scooped up people who'd just done one little thing and also or done two minor things, but also if you'd done much more unpleasant things.
Yeah,
it was the next step down from hanging, basically. So if they didn't give you capital punishment, you'd get transportation.
So if you'd murdered someone and then a little while later forgotten to pay for some bread, out you go.
Yeah, they'd let you go on the murder, but they'd say, now you don't do anything else again. You be on your best behaviour. We will be watching you. And then you steal the bread and they say, we are really disappointed in you.
Yeah, and that's worse. That's worse to hear, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, just transport me for life. Just hang me. Yeah, so you've got all these hardened prisoners around you all the time, right? And you don't want hardened prisoners. You want softened prisoners.
Oh.
You want soft.
Give
You
them
want
some
melt in your mouth
moisturiser,
prisoners.
yeah.
Exactly. Yes, beautiful, smooth prisoners. And a lot of them knew Brady or his gang from Port Arthur. One example is that they're out ranging in the bush, right, as they do, and they come across a guy that they know working on a farm, and he says, "Oh, great, so he's a convict. He's out, working in the field or whatever." He says, "Great, I'm just about to take dinner to the soldiers, and if you come in after me, they'll all be sitting down with their guns in the corner, and then you can just hold them up and rob them, and I'll run away with you." And they absolutely do exactly that. And tie up all the soldiers, steal everything that's not nailed down, and this guy runs away and joins their gang. Apparently, the word is that 2 weeks later, some settlers caught up with that guy when he was asleep under a tree and just shot him in the head before he had a chance to run away or anything like that. So the consequences are pretty dire if you're caught as well. But everyone's so desperate to get away. It doesn't seem like it, it seems worth the risk to them. But the gang is getting braver and braver, right? They're robbing, they're getting all the stuff that they need, robbing, stealing food, stealing clothes, that sort of thing. And they get braver and braver. And after a while, Brady gets to be a bit of a larrikin, bit of an Aussie larrikin, and the Governor Arthur puts out a notice saying, "It has occasioned the Lieutenant Governor much concern that the continued outrages of the 2 prisoners, McCabe and Brady," so McCabe is another member of the gang, "have led to the death of another settler." I'll tell you about that a bit more later on. "His Honour has directed the reward of £25 shall be given for the apprehension of either of these men, and that any prisoner giving such information may directly lead to their apprehension may receive a ticket of leave." So ticket of leave basically means that you're pardoned immediately from imprisonment and you can go and become a free settler.
Wow.
Basically. Get your own farm, live your life. And 3 days after he put that out there, after this notice had been circulated, Brady nails his own notice to the door of the Royal Oak Inn at Crossmarch, dated Mountain Home, April 20th, 1825. "It has caused Matthew Brady much concern that such a person known as Sir George Arthur is at large. 20 gallons of rum will be given to any person that will deliver his person unto me. I also caution John Priest that I will hang him for his ill treatment of Mrs. Blackwell at Newtown. M. Brady." So the governor puts out a notice for a reward for the capture of Brady, and Brady puts out his own reward for the capture of the governor. It's a bit of a classic,
They said he had a good hand.
Yeah. Oh, beautifully written. Beautiful.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And so you noticed in there, he also was threatening some guy who had mistreated a woman in there. The other thing about Brady was that in the context of the time, not a total creep to women, right? He seemed pretty good. Here's another quote. "Yet it cannot be said that the gang was brutal or even savage, and they were most scrupulous in their treatment of females. As even the Hobart Town papers acknowledged, one man who had asked a servant girl for a kiss, one gang member who had asked a servant girl for a kiss, was at once knocked down by their leader. And one of the plundered settlers afterwards said that Brady's first word was, 'Are there any ladies in the house?' And receiving a reply in the affirmative, he said, 'Then tell them to get up and let them dress themselves and go into one room and no one shall molest them.'" So he's keeping them, looking after women.
Yeah.
Which is good. So McCabe, who was the other prisoner who was mentioned in the notice from the governor, he apparently offered violence to a woman. So Brady shot him through the hand, disarmed and thrashed him and kicked him out of the gang. And McCabe then began robbing by himself, and he was very quickly caught and hanged.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Of course, we have to ask who started that story. So it could... Probably not McCabe. Probably didn't put that story about. So it was either the lady, in which case we could maybe believe it, or it was probably Brady himself. So we don't know. They're probably all self-mythologizing.
Yeah.
To a certain extent, these guys. And some of these stories might be totally made up.
But it's nice to think that at least someone in history wasn't a creep to women, isn't it? Isn't it nice to just imagine
But
just one?
even the fact that he thought, even if he had made it up, even the fact that he thought that it was a positive thing to make up is a positive in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. That's progress.
That's how he wants to be remembered, as not a creep to women.
The fact that he was capable of imagining not being a creep
Yeah.
is
Very promising.
Such a huge step. Brady is most famous perhaps for his capture of Sorel Jail and the release of the prisoners. So he and 7 of his men attacked a house at Pittwater. And it's great reading all of the names of all these places that were just places I would just drive past.
Right.
I've been through Sorel. I've been
Sorel,
there.
yeah. They got 2 good op shops and they got an ice cream shop. We used to get ice cream there all the time.
Ah, so good.
Yeah. So they attacked a house at Pittwater, imprisoning the owner and his servants. And they decided to stay the night, right? So they're that confident. And then it was a bit wet the next day, so they decided to stay the next day as well. And then in the evening, 2 visitors arrived, Mr. Walter Bethune and Captain Bunster. And
What?
Brady rose Captain Bunster. Captain Bunster.
Also, Walter Bethune is amazing.
Incredible.
Walter Bethune and Captain Bunster. And Brady rose to the occasion. He called a groom to take their horses, to marry them, obviously, and conducted the men inside, assured them that there was nothing to fear, and ordered dinner for them. So he's now got the servants at the house.
Just get Uber Eats. That's good.
Wow. Do you reckon they both had to order from the same place, or he was like, you can go from the pizza place and you can get
you
chicken?
get whatever you want. I'll do a couple of different orders if you like. No worries.
Like it was just nothing to him.
He was like,
right?
Yeah,
He was just
yeah.
like,
2
you know,
delivery fees? I don't care.
Yeah, no worries.
yeah.
Whatever you like.
Oh, half and half pizza? That's an extra $1.50. Doesn't mean anything to me.
No problem. Because I want you to be happy.
Andy, you've just made me instantly hungry for pizza. Half and half. I don't know. You didn't even describe any toppings at all, but just the idea of half and half pizza made my mouth water.
A pizza that has 2 halves? You have my attention. That's a whole pizza. 2 halves, that's a whole pizza. So they're all having dinner, right? And he's just chatting, entertaining people around the dinner table. And eventually he gets bored, right? The conversation apparently flagged. So Brady decides that to enliven things, he's going to go and capture the Sorrel jail. So he tells his guests, and now we're going to go and capture the Sorrel jail. So he takes all the 18 prisoners with him to the town at about 10 o'clock at night. And they reach the jail most opportunely, as the soldiers had been out in the rain all day looking for the bushrangers. And they were just cleaning their guns. So there was a rush. The wet guns were easily seized. The inmates of the jail were freed.
Guns.
The soldiers and the Pittwater contingent took their place in the cells. And then they propped up a log against the door and dressed it up to look like a soldier and headed off into the hills.
They dressed up a log.
Dressed up a
And it
log to look
worked.
like a soldier.
And it
Well, you know,
worked.
with that long hat, it's a very
And the
sort of
log was hewn pine. So it was never going to drop its guard.
So that's right. It's still sitting there to this day. Nobody's been in. Nobody's looked into this. And it smells great as well. That would be the
my
be
God.
the real.
That guard smells amazing.
Yeah, that's the giveaway because everyone else smells like absolute shit.
Now, obviously, this gets the attention of the governor, and he doubles the reward. And basically, it's now on for young and old. Okay, anyone in the colony can enrol themselves as a special constable now. Apparently, whatever that means.
Cool.
You can basically declare yourself a cop.
Do you reckon they send you like a little sheriff's badge?
Why don't they send you a badge? Maybe a hat.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Maybe a sticker. Maybe it's just an online e-certificate or something like that.
All right.
There are now, and he's got soldiers hiding out in wagons, and they're basically driving them along through like very vulnerable bush tracks and hoping that they'll get attacked by Brady, and they'll be able to catch him.
Oh.
But Brady has informants everywhere, so he knows, and he's always one step ahead. There is a story that eventually he does get caught after he stays overnight at a friend's cabin, right? And the friend basically betrays him. Yes. But the story is that the soldiers come, friend goes and gets some soldiers. The soldiers come and they get him while he's asleep and they tie him up. And then they go to sleep. And when they wake up in the morning, he's used the fire in the cabin to burn through his ropes. And there's just burned ropes there and he's escaped.
He burned through the ropes. People never think of that. I was trying to cut him.
Well, they did. It seems crazy, right? Because you got the ropes there on your hands or whatever. You probably got to get your hands down into the fire.
That's full on.
Better than being hung or hanged.
It is better than that,
Nothing
yeah.
wrong with being hung, Andy.
Nothing better than being hung. Am I right?
I don't know, Jess. Are you right?
I don't know.
No.
I'm truly unsure.
I'm not sure either, to be honest.
So Brady, the guy who betrayed Brady, he eventually catches up with him, right? And he kills him. And that is the only death that is actually known to be attributed to Brady.
He kills his friend who betrayed him.
Some
Yes.
friend.
Yeah.
And that was but remember, that was one of the rules
Yes.
that he laid down at the start. He was allowed to avenge traitors. So he's just sticking by the rules. Apparently, the guy he catches he comes and finds this guy in some other cabin, right? And he sits down and has a cup of tea with him, right? Just looking at him across the table and holding his gun. And the guy knows exactly what's going to happen. And then he says, "All right, I'll give you a head start. You can run towards that tree." And as soon as he turns around, he just shoots him in the head.
That's kind of a nice way of doing it, I guess.
Gave him that hope.
But also did it quicker than it seemed, so it wasn't like he didn't have to panic for ages. Guy killed, did he agree to this rule?
Ignorance of the rules is no defense.
That's right.
I said I'm allowed to kill people who I want to, so it's fine. I think that should hold up more in the court of law.
Yep. In the court of law.
Everyone's got their. You've got your rules, Judge. Well, I've got my rules too, and they differ from yours slightly. So let's agree to disagree.
I've got a hammer at home. You know, we're the same basically. I declare you guilty, Judge.
I mean, it is ridiculous when you think about it, isn't it? Who are you to judge me, Judge?
The crime of double standards. Yeah. So eventually, he decides he's sick of Tasmania and he wants to go to the mainland, which is a common problem that Tasmania still has, holding on to its young, bright people. I see a lot of myself in Brady.
Yeah.
In this regard.
You outgrew Tasmania is how you felt.
That's right.
After killing a man.
I was on the run for a murder.
Yeah.
So they steal a boat to sail to Tasmania, but it's too rough to get across to the mainland. But it's too rough to get across Bass Strait, right? This is the thing I've also done is sail across Bass Strait, and I can guarantee it is very rough. It's one of the Sydney to Hobart yacht race is the roughest ocean race in the world.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it was the roughest. Wow.
Well, it might not be true.
It is now.
I'd love to know the scale you use for roughness.
That's the Graves Roberts scale of roughness.
Wow.
From as smooth as the do go on introduction, all the way up to as rough as this analogy.
Oh, wow.
And you're not the only one who's sailed across the Bass Strait. I caught the Spirit of Tasmania there and back a decade or so ago. So
Spirit of Tas.
Did you throw
Beautiful.
up?
Oh yeah, we were sitting in the bar. We were watching, but I had my video camera there. Back in the old days, we have a camcorder, and I was filming us. We were just drinking in the bar, and like watching it back a few weeks later, it was half an hour or so, and I'm like, how deep into this trip are we? And then the camera pans across, and we're still sitting docked in at Melbourne.
The open ocean. Smell that sea breeze. But yeah, so he turns back, right? And I think he's getting a bit, at this point, he starts to get a little bit reckless. So he sends word to the commandant at Launceston being the town in the north of Tasmania. With the bushrangers' compliments, he sends them word that he proposes to rob Mr. Dry's house, which is about a mile out of Launceston, and attack the Launceston jail on the same night. And so the story is that the soldiers that got this message basically thought it was a joke.
Yeah, right.
But it wasn't a joke. So he attacks Mr. Dry's house, okay, and the gang robs the place while apparently Brady entertained the ladies in the parlour with amusing stories and even a sentimental song to his own accompaniment on the piano. And then a servant escapes and notifies the soldiers in town, so they send a posse from the jail out to Mr. Dry's house, and meanwhile, while they're gone, the other half of Brady's gang attacks the jail. And they get to Dry's house, and there's a bit of a shootout, and but the whole gang gets away.
Oh, wow.
Yes, but they didn't succeed in breaking anyone out of the jail this time. But now he's sort of just taking the piss at this point. And the governor now is really, really getting angry, right? And he ups the reward to 300 guineas or 300 acres of land free of rent, and was offered up for the capture, while the offer of a free pardon and free passage to England was made to any prisoner who captured them. And a guinea, I had to look up what that is. but it was a gold coin.
Ooh.
Okay.
The return passage to England would have been an enormous incentive for convicts because most of them never made it home. Even if they were released, and a lot of them were after 7 to 10 year sentences, only a tiny, tiny fraction, only a handful of them ever made it back to England because they just couldn't afford it, and it was just such a huge journey. So being sent back there would have been a big incentive. And the governor himself took to the field in search. And now even people who were supportive before of Brady were starting to turn on him just because the incentive is just so great. And it gets so crazy that the settlers are so worried that the other prisoners will break out of the prison and join Brady's gang that they petition the governor to just hang everyone in the prison.
Whoa.
Yeah.
It's a bit extreme.
They don't do that, but they do get a bit hanging crazy. And in one court session, 37 prisoners are sentenced to be hanged just in one day. So they're really going nuts.
Wow.
Yes, but Brady is not slowing down, and he's just doing raids pretty much every day, burning down rich people's houses and destroying their crops if they cross him. And he's got a bit of an aesthetic now. He's got these 2 white stallions that he stole from Mr. Dry's house, and he's got the hat of the corporal that they shot off when they were having the shootout at Mr. Dry's house. So he wears that, and he always keeps himself well dressed. So he would have been one of the best dressed people in the colony, riding around on his white horse with Colonel Balfour's hat.
Whoa.
I'm now imagining Napoleon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sounds like he was a similar height as well.
And fully
I think that is the thing about
not trying to be hidden at all anymore either. Like a white horse is so distinctive. So he's getting very confident.
Exactly. Here's another anecdote. When the Bushrangers were going down the Tamar, that's the river in the north of Tasmania, they captured Captain White of the Duke of York in his boat and Captain Smith, late of the Brutus, who was with him. Captain Smith was mistaken for Colonel Balfour. They thought it was Colonel Balfour, and they knocked him down, but discovering their mistake, they apologised. They then made Captain White go down upon his knees and were going to shoot him, but Captain Smith interfered and saved his life on representing to them the misery that it would inflict on his children. During the night, Captain Smith and White were allowed to depart, and they made the best of their escape all the way to Launceston. So they're not, they're not totally heartless still. But more and more people are turning against him, and some soldiers managed to separate Brady from the gang, and he's betrayed by an ex-convict who wants the pardon, and he gets and there's another shootout, and Brady gets shot in the ankle as he's trying to escape. Okay, but he does get away. But now things are pretty bad for him because he's on his own and
that's
he's
where
injured.
the term Brady's ankle comes from, isn't it?
That well-known term, Brady's ankle.
My fatal flaw, my Brady's ankle.
I thought it was a type of pastry, a Brady's ankle.
Yeah.
Just grab us a Brady's ankle, thanks.
Yeah, and a Chucky milk.
Yeah, a Chucky milk. Yeah, a Nippies. Thanks.
Yes, a Nippies!
You said Balfour as well. I know the name Balfour as a pie brand, Balfour's Pies. I wonder if that's named in honour of that guy you just mentioned.
Colonel Balfour.
I assume so, yes.
You familiar with their work, Dave? Balfour's Pies?
I don't know if I've had a Balfour. Is that a Tasmanian pie?
Yeah, maybe it is.
You're about to get a name that you will recognise, though, because Brady's still on the run by himself in the Western Tiers, right? A very rough, isolated part of Tasmania. And that's when a bloke called John Batman decides he is going to try and catch him.
Right.
Okay, so this is Batman, the same Batman who went on to found Melbourne and is, as far as I can tell, one of the worst assholes in the history of Australia.
And it's only starting to come to light,
bad.
isn't it? Because there's a lot of things in Melbourne named after him, and people are like, we shouldn't have these things.
Yep.
It's a fun name for sure, but he was an awful person.
Oh, it's such it's a very fun name, and I was so excited when I was like, oh, he's being hunted down by Batman.
Yeah.
This is just like that cartoon series, Batman or Batman. But then as I remembered anything about Batman, And then the more I went on to read about him, the more unpleasant he seemed.
Oh.
So he was heavily involved in the genocide of the Palawa people in Tasmania. And although, and this is, and like, he seems really bad now. The more you read about him, all the stuff he did. But then listening to the Frontier Wars podcast, there's another narrative going on, which is it's really interesting because a lot of historians paint the battles between Indigenous people and the settlers as being just between isolated settlers or individuals, or families and the Indigenous people. But actually, there's evidence, quite suppressed evidence and quite hidden evidence, that actually soldiers were much more involved than a lot of our stories tell us.
Right.
And it's because, like, it was actually a war. It was just an undeclared war. And they didn't, the people out here, the governors and that sort of thing, didn't want the British back home to know that they were having this war. And so they didn't keep records of a lot of stuff. And it was presented as this, there's isolated battles between, free settlers and Indigenous tribes. But actually, it was a campaign involving soldiers.
Whoa.
In a way that I didn't even realize. But that being said, Batman wasn't a soldier. He was. Here's a quote from his neighbour. Right, his neighbour was John Glover, who was a Tasmanian painter. Did some very nice paintings. He says, Batman was a thief, a liar, a rogue, and a cheat, and a murderer of blacks, and the vilest man I have ever known.
Whoa.
So that's who founded Melbourne, everyone. He originally called it Batmania.
What?
So we could have been named after him.
Which makes him sound like an absolute maniac. Just name it after himself.
Batmania.
I read some reports that described him. He was good in the bush, I think. Like he was, capable in the bush of surviving in the bush. But he was very vain and jealous and angry and extremely, extremely violent. But he's now chasing Brady. And one day he espied a man of dejected.
Did you say Spider-Man?
Spider-Man.
Batman and Spider-Man.
This is
DC
showing
and Marvel
everything.
coming together.
Yeah. It was a crossover episode and cost a lot of money to get the rights. He espied. I'm quoting ancient old English. He espied a man. Of dejected, careworn aspect, slowly limping along through the bush with the aid of a cut sapling and evidently in great pain. Suddenly the man caught sight of Batman, and at once the stick was thrown aside and his gun was on his shoulder. With a finger on the trigger, Brady called out, "Are you a soldier, officer?" For soldiers were his abhorrence, and Batman was wearing a frock coat and a foraging cap. "I'm no soldier, Brady," was the reply. "I'm John Batman. Surrender. There is no chance for you." For a moment or two, Brady communed with himself and then said, "You are right, Batman. My time has come. I will yield to you because you are a brave man." So this is the story that we have from Batman, right? That
You are the biggest man I have ever met.
Yes. I will yield to only
you're
you.
pretty.
For my respect for you is so large and you are so
I'll
well
only
hung.
be hanged by a man so well hung.
If you want to feel a bit better about Batman, he died, I think, one of the most horrible deaths I've ever read about.
Oh, good.
Which is that he had syphilis and basically his face rotted off.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's real grim.
Is that why he put on the mask?
At the age of 38.
Right. Ah.
So, yeah, he came to Melbourne. He became quite rich, but he married. But then his nose fell off, and his wife left him, and he died. Really, really unpleasant death. So Brady's been captured, and here's a quote from a newspaper article that was published several years later. It was natural that his capture should be received with the demonstrations of joy by the populace. Yet, strange to say, hundreds of persons, including ladies, openly expressed sympathy with him, some of the latter freely shedding tears at the recital of the sufferings of the poor man whose chivalrous treatment of all females was one of the distinguishing characteristics of his career in the bush. So they petition the governor. They try and get the governor to let him off, but he is sentenced to death. And here's another quote. His cell was besieged with visitors, and his table was loaded with presents, baskets of fruit, bouquets of flowers, and dishes of confectionery prepared by his fair admirers were tendered in abundance to the jailer for his distinguished captive. The last moment came. The dramatic scene was maintained to its close. Pinioned, he stood on the scaffold before a dense mass of spectators who cheered him for his courage and grieved bitterly for his fate. He received the consolations of the Roman Catholic faith. He bade a familiar adieu to the gentlemen about him, and he died more like a patient martyr than a felon murderer. So apparently he was on the gallows with a convict called Jeffries, who had a reputation as a mass murderer and a cannibal, and also an informant. And Brady was really indignant about being hanged alongside an informant.
Cannibal, fine. Informant.
Mass murderer, okay.
Whatever.
I'll give you that.
But a snitch?
Informant?
I gotta get hanged with a snitch?
Yeah, hang me with a snitch. Yes, he kept his whatever his twisted morals were to the end. I've read that some historians say that his actions were much more those of a rebellion than like just a crime spree. And it's true that convicts in Australia got a pretty raw deal, but I don't know. Like, would you regard him as a rebel?
Oh yeah, definitely. He definitely
a rebel with a cause sounds like it.
And a hat.
Oh yeah,
a rebel with a hat.
And a horse.
His wife horse.
Yeah.
And that is the story of Matthew Brady, Gentleman Bushranger.
Oh, great story. How old was he when he was hanged?
28.
Oh, wow.
And he had been... Oh, do you want to guess how long he was on the run for? How long all that took?
It sounded like a couple of years, maybe.
It was 21 months. So...
Yeah, right.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing to be on the run for that length of time. And kind of not even really hiding that much.
Yeah.
Well, Tasmania is a small state by Australian standards, but it's like at this time, there's only 10,000 people living there, and it is so wild. It's only been settled for about 20 years at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So you could just run off into the hills and no one would be able to follow you or find you. And because he had so many of the convicts on his side, I think he just got away with it, man.
It's all about networking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Networking. It's who you know.
That's what I say.
That's a great story. I'd never heard of him.
Me neither. Yeah, I came across him a couple of years ago, just saw the mention of his name and the fact that he'd taken the Sorel jail. I was like, that's a cool story. And I think this feels like the sort of thing that you would make a movie of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's that, that underdog and that, you get to cast him as some handsome, well-dressed, yet short man who's very popular with the ladies.
Thank you. Okay, all right.
Tom Cruise.
We're going for an Aussie casting.
Surely
so.
Errol Flynn must have thought about it back in the day. Hollywood's own Tasmanian.
Yes, who went to my school.
Did he really?
My high school.
There you go.
Yeah, but he also went to almost every high school in Tasmania because he was constantly getting expelled for doing naughty, sexy things.
Oh.
But we can't even feel good about Errol Flynn because he was also a total arsehole and an extremely unpleasant man.
Oh, is that a Tasmanian thing? Or
was he unpleasant in a Tasmanian way, you mean? Or
I just wonder. I mean, it's just we're learning about these Tasmanians and often they sound to be unpleasant. So
Well, to be fair, Batman did wasn't originally from Tasmania, and he did go on to found Melbourne. So
that's fair. Yeah.
Let's not go towering with brushes.
I do enjoy how you use the euphemism of unpleasant a lot to describe like things.
Did I say that a lot?
Well, just anything that is the other side of awful. I love the understatement of unpleasant.
Yeah, because it contains the word pleasant. So if you want to, you can just focus on that.
Yeah.
Really softens the blow. That was so good, Andy. Thanks so much for coming to tell us that story. I know you've got to run before we go on to everyone's favourite section of the show, the fact, quote, or question, etc. section. But before you go, just one more time, for people who don't maybe didn't fully get how big and important your work on Magma is, do you want to just describe it one more time?
It's my engineering comedy presentation. But it's not about engineering. We play two stupid people who think that they're geniuses trying to rebuild the world in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And if you go to sospresents.com, you can get our live show performed without any of the annoying audience laughter that you would normally get if you came and saw it live. So you can just enjoy it in peace and just fill the room with your own laughter.
Yeah.
And it probably sounds a bit highfalutin maybe, and there would be extra laughs if you are an engineer, I'd say, but I watched it as someone who actually hates engineers, and I still loved it very much. I found it very, very funny, and it actually almost made me maybe want to rethink my lifelong opinions on engineers that were formed in my university days.
I watched it as someone with a hatred of Alastair Tremblay Birchall. And while it didn't fully turn me around on my feelings to him, I still managed to enjoy the show.
I think one of the great bonuses is hearing Andy talk in a funny voice for a whole hour.
For a long time, yeah.
I really committed to that voice, and I think I more or less managed to keep it up.
Yeah. It'd be great.
Yeah, terrible for my throat and vocal cords, but that's what you got to do.
So funny.
If you're not willing to write funny enough material, you've got to be prepared to do a really silly voice.
Yeah.
And that's my promise to you.
It's so good. And so once people get to stream, they can watch it, every day for the rest of their life if they want. Is that kind of true?
Correct. And it's I think it's very affordable. It's less than $10.
Oh, that's bang. You're basically giving it away. What are you, the gentleman comedian?
That's me.
Thanks so much for joining us, Andy. And people can also find your podcast, obviously, Two in the Think Tank, and your Stupid Old Andy on Twitter.
That's right.
Where you make lots of funny short sentences and just put them out for the world to enjoy. Like a gentleman would.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everybody, for having me. I love you.
And now it's time for everyone's favourite section of the show, the Fact, Quote, or Question section, which I believe has a little jingle that goes something like this.
Fact, quote, or question.
Ding! He always remembers the ding, although that time
he barely remembered.
I'm not sure if he did.
I just wanted everyone at home to panic a little bit.
Well, I panicked.
I did. I think I had a little panic in my underpants, if you know what I mean.
Oh, no.
No.
From a weed.
Oh, a weed in your
I
underpants?
didn't.
You did a panic wee.
I did a panic wee.
Yes, sure. So to get involved in this, you go to patreon.com/DoGoOnPod and you get involved on the Sydney Scheinberg Deluxe Memorial Edition package level, and then you get to give us a fact, a quote, or a question. Then I'll read them out on the show. We do 4 each week. And you also get to give yourself a title. Firstly, this week, this one comes from Zach Dobrin, who's given himself the title of Official Promoter of the Pod to High School Students in Virginia.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Very niche, but a very important role.
Is Virginia creamy country?
No, that's Vermont.
Vermont.
But it's on that side. I imagine it's not that big a drive to go and get a sweet, sweet creamy.
And I believe...
Or a creamy, creamy, creamy.
Virginia's one of the original states, isn't it? One of the oldest ones.
Yes.
And Zach has given us a quote, and this is his quote. Day one. It was a quote by me, Matt Stewart.
We still don't know what you were talking about.
Still don't know what you meant.
What were you talking
one.
about?
I liked it because
No one
there were
knows.
listeners who said, I knew what you meant. And I like that because everyone was able to put on their own meaning. So that's fantastic. I can't remember what episode that was in, but I just had a brain fade probably maybe a year ago now.
I have no concept of time. It could have been 5 years ago.
No idea at all. But Zach
No
does
idea.
say these are truly words to live by and an inspiration to all.
Yes.
Thank you, Zach.
Agreed.
Well said.
Thanks, Zach.
The next one comes from David Loring, who's given himself the title of Executive Director of Party Tricks that take a lot of effort and impress very few.
So you kind of want
I'd flip that.
want the other way
Yeah.
around. Yeah,
Ideally.
yeah.
But that's what he's in charge of, so. And David is giving us a fact, and that fact is the original Nokia SMS tone is Morse code for SMS. ... .. I had no idea about that. That's a great fact. Jess, is that fun?
Yeah, that's fun.
a fun fact. I was about to say it and then realised
Bloody.
my position.
Your position is grim facts.
Grim
Was that
facts.
a grim fact? No. It's a delightful
Andy hit us with a
fact.
few good grim facts in this episode,
Yeah.
mainly about Batman and
Yeah.
Australia just having a fucking dark past
Real bad.
and present. Thank you so much, David Loring. The next one comes from Nathan Damon, who has given himself the title of Matt Stewart's stunt double. That's great.
Do you need a third person for a stunt ass, or do you do your own ass?
No, I do
work?
my own ass work. Yeah.
Great work. Nice. Nice.
I've been doing Bulgarian split squats to get myself ready, get my
Hell yeah.
ass in the right shape.
You did 6 months of work for 6 seconds of screen time. I love it.
6 seconds? Please don't linger that long. That would seem like an eternity.
Just a flash. Just
Yeah.
a little flash
3.
of butt is
0.6 of
fine.
a second, maybe.
No, I want the full 6 seconds, please. I'm the director here.
With no real context. It's just...
No.
just
People are like, what the hell?
What's going
This
on?
was a heist
confusing.
movie.
Why is there a butt?
Did we really
so
need to see
long.
him in the shower with no dialogue for 6
For 6
seconds?
seconds.
And no, just a close-up on his ass?
Just the ass. Like pushed up against the shower screen door.
Just wiggle it around for a bit.
you call that
Very
again?
confusing.
What's a squashed ass on it? That's the chop is a squash frog, isn't it? What's that? Is there an
Yeah.
ass got a name?
I don't know.
Dave, you might have just started a whole new craze that's going to sweep the nation.
Fuck yeah,
Sweep the
can't.
nation's bathrooms. Imagine people are trying to do it at home and they're like, but I only have a shower curtain. Just does not work. So Nathan Damon has given us a fact as well. And his fact is there's only one letter that doesn't appear in any US state name. Ooh, Dave, any guesses?
X?
It's not X.
No, Texas.
Cute.
It is Q. Well done, Bob.
Hey, Dave, what's this? What's this I got here for you? What's that? Little present for
For
you.
the
What are you
listeners at home,
doing?
Dave, please describe the gesture Jess is.
Jess is holding up her finger. It looks like it's bleeding.
Yeah. Okay, I'll give you this one.
That's how much fury she has for you, Dave. She's sticking you up a bloody middle finger. And we've got one here from Vinny Bonadonna to close us out this week. Great name, Vinny Bonadonna,
Absolute cracker.
who we've heard from
Amazing.
before. I mean, we've heard from most of these people before, but Vinny Bonadonna, what a name. Given himself the title of the Greyhound.
Ooh.
I love that.
Sounds pretty badass.
That is super
Yeah, that's
badass.
great.
And he's also given us a fact.
Bring in the Greyhound.
Bring in the Greyhound.
Call the Greyhound.
Another fact, right?
So no questions this week, which is... Anyway, it's good. We're getting a lot of questions lately, so it's good to have a bit of a mix-up with a bunch of facts. So this one from Vinny is, the city of Chicago's nickname, the Windy City, the Windy City, Chicago, is not based on the weather in the city. The moniker derives from the shady politicians who are blowing wind when they speak out of their mouths or full of hot air. And Vinny Bonadonna is from Chicago. He says, I learned this when I was about 13, now living in Las Vegas. I made a subtle joke to my dad about how windy it is here in this city compared to Chicago. And then my dad told me this. There could be some debate on the meaning of the nickname, though. Thank you guys for making cool stuff. I'm grateful for it. And a bonus quote, life happens wherever you are, whether you make it or not. And that's from Uncle Iro. Thank you, Vinny.
There you go. Windy City. Not so windy.
Yeah, the Windy City. Always assumed that it was more like what it said it was.
Yeah.
We take things so literally, you know?
We need to take a step back every now and then.
Yeah, every now and then.
So that brings us to everyone's other favourite part of the show, where we thank a few more of our patrons. And these great patrons are on the probably Ask Prod level. Or is it DB Cooper? How do I still not know this?
We just don't need to say it.
Okay. I should just not say it. Is that what you're saying?
People can just go to Patreon and they can work it out.
They can read it. Well, you know that isn't necessarily the case, because people don't necessarily always work it out, Dave. And I think me being confusing about it here is helpful.
That's right. We're steering them in the right direction.
So if I can kick it off. Oh, Jess, what kind of game do you want to play with these names?
Well, it's a tough one. I was thinking, you know how he was sort of called like the Gentleman Bushranger? Yeah. Could we give them some kind of title?
Oh, yeah. The Gentleman something else, or the something Bushranger, or anything, I guess.
Anything.
Oh, love that. You can show me what you mean when I thank from Endicott in New York State, United States, Austin Horst.
Great name.
Great name.
It
is a really
gentle truck driver.
Okay.
Oh, right. That's nice.
That's a nice name. The gentle truck driver, Austin Horst from Endicott.
Gentle on the roads.
Yeah.
So I think it could just be anything. Does it have to have gentle in it?
No.
I love it. The gentle truck driver, Austin Horst. Thank you so much for your support. I'd also love to thank from Bristol in Great Britain, Marisol Forbes.
Oh, I think that we met Marisol at our shows in Bristol last year, and she was the artist that made us all a little thing out of...
I saw mine sitting in my bedside table drawer, my Saints badge, because the badge bit fell off the back. So now it's just a beautiful little keepsake sitting near my head when I sleep.
She made me a little pie keyring, which I think is really awesome.
Did we ever put out a photo of those things? Surely.
I don't think we did, but we should.
Did, no.
Amazing. We should do that for sure. Good memory,
thanks, Marisol.
Dave. Marisol. Great name. Marisol Forbes. Marisol maybe could be the... I'll give you the adjective, and then you give the profession or whatever. The fantastic
baker.
Oh yeah.
Because of the pie?
Yeah.
The pie, Dave. The fantastic baker.
I mean, if you can make a pie keyring, you can make a real pie, right?
Yeah.
Surely.
Yeah.
The keyring is a lot harder than the pie.
If you got a door, you got a gym. If you got a pie keyring, you got a pie maker.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you so much, Marisol. And
thanks, Marisol.
Finally, I'd love to thank
awesome.
From Antioch in Tennessee in the United States, I reckon, TN, Melissa Pisarski.
Melissa is the quiet...
Ooh. Tickler.
Oh,
quiet tickler. Never see it. You never hear it coming.
That's right. You just might be sitting there watching TV and then tickle, tickle, tickle.
Yeah.
Too late. You've been tickled.
You've been tickled.
You've been tickled.
That's her catchphrase. You've been tickled.
She walks
and it's a good catchphrase.
Yeah. And it's a pleasant tickle as well. It's not one of those ones that makes you want to punch a wall. Is that one of the kinds of tickles? This one makes you want to just giggle with joy.
You go, you got me.
You got me.
You got me. And she doesn't go too far. She doesn't tickle you for ages where you're like, stop, please. It's just sort of like a little bit and you go,
you cheeky thing. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly. It's cheeky.
It's cheeky. It's beautiful. Thank you so much to Melissa, Marisol, and Austin, who would like to thank a few more of our great patrons.
I'd like to.
Yeah,
I got in first.
I'd like Jess to thank Sam is what I was going to say.
Well, I would love to thank from Rustburg in VA.
We're back in Virginia.
Yes.
Which, can I just say, so just quickly, I looked up the distance between Vermont and Virginia, and someone's going to tweet me this. It's like a 12-hour drive, so it's not the easiest place to get a creamy from, but still, it's closer than we are, goddammit.
Yeah.
Yes. You'd happily do a 12-hour drive for one,
Oh,
wouldn't
for
you?
a creamy.
Alphabetically, very close.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. Well, I would love to thank Parker Riley.
Fantastic name.
Ooh.
Parker Riley, a.k.a. the devastating.
Ooh. Devastating. Fireman.
Oh, the devastating fireman. That's probably not the combo you want.
Do they devastate fires?
Oh,
No, he's just devastatingly handsome.
Oh.
that's a good combo.
Parker.
That's also
hello.
a stereotype, right? Firemen are handsome. That can't be. I mean, what a wild connection those two things have.
I think there's something very appealing about someone who can pick you up over their shoulder and just
like
I
a
don't
kidnapper.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
I just want to be carried around sometimes.
Piggyback.
Sometimes my legs get tired and I want someone to carry
Yeah.
me.
I mean, you push a lot of weight. Those leg presses. What are you up to?
Yeah.
Oh, we've been in lockdown.
I haven't been able to go to
Yeah.
the gym. I'm so excited to go.
Gym's back
Oh, no,
open here in Melbourne this week, is it?
Oh my god. Yeah, next week it starts.
Are you
I
going to
think.
start with like a low weight and work back those legs back up?
Absolutely, because in that 2-week block where we were allowed to go to the gym, I overdid it and couldn't walk for a week. So
Whoa.
I've learnt and I'm going to just ease
Love
in.
that.
But I'm very excited.
Hey, Jess, after you do a bit of work there, you could be my butt double.
Oh my god. Yes.
6
I could
seconds.
do
I've
it
got a
now.
six-
I don't even need to do any work and I could be an amazing
I got a
butt
6-second
Wow.
scene that you are perfect for.
This could be a big break.
They look completely different heights. It's like,
That's
I don't think
confusing.
that's him. That's definitely a woman's waist. No. Anyway, thank you, Parker. I'd also love to thank from Roseville. What's MN?
Minnesota.
I'm doing so well today. I'm doubting myself, but I'm getting it. Roseville, Minnesota. I'd love to thank Jessica English.
Jessica English. Oh, the brilliant archaeologist.
Oh, that's cool.
Like that.
When I was a kid,
Yeah.
I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Yeah,
that
me
was
too.
a dream.
I don't know. I didn't really know what it meant apart from digging up fun stuff and discovering stuff.
Basically,
Yeah.
I was inspired by the phrase film, The Mummy.
Of course. Of course
Yeah, I
you
wonder
were.
if I was too.
Who wasn't inspired by that
oh my
film?
God, great movie.
Great film.
Great movie.
Great dashing lead. The guy who played the mummy.
You're welcome, Jessica. Yeah. Yeah. And finally, I would love to thank from Roslyn Park, South Australia, Tony Fay.
Oh.
Tony
Hey.
Fay. Roslyn Park. First Aussie that we've thanked today. So obviously, Tony Fay, the dashing.
Chef.
Oh, the dashing chef.
Wow.
There's a television series ready to go for the dashing chef, I reckon.
Easily,
Yeah.
yep.
What's his specialty? What does he cook?
This is Tony with an I, so it might be
Or what does she cook?
Specialty is Portuguese
Ooh.
Oh,
cuisine.
wow. That's quite nice.
Like Nando's?
Yeah, Nando's.
Oh, wow. The South African chain. There you go.
Dave, do you want to bring it home?
I'd love to. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks so far. But let me take it home with from Limerick City in Ireland. It is Christina Ma.
Christina Ma.
Christina Ma.
Limerick. Is that Stab City? I always forget.
You
Is
get
that
confused.
Cork?
There's
Yeah.
always two. You never know which is which.
Yeah, and I guess one would be offended and one's prouder. Yeah, we're Stab City. And the other's like, no, we're not Stab City. Limerick.
I don't know.
Ma. Okay, what about the Marvelous?
Ooh.
Dragon Slayer.
Oh, whoa.
Far out.
Holy
That is
crap.
good.
Holy crap.
Holy.
Sorry, everyone else.
Yeah, Christina, you've just taken it to the next level.
I just gave Tony a fucking chef.
Yeah, but
Long hours.
But Portuguese-
Antisocial long hours.
it's Portuguese.
And now
Come on.
fucking Christina coming in here. Whoa.
Limerick is known as Stab City. Colloquially.
Why?
Colloquially. I
I
think.
wanna know why?
I think there at one point was a few stabbings there.
Right.
Hopefully, it's less rough now.
That's just what when I traveled through there, people told me that late after I was wandering around at night by myself. And then people are like, you wandered around by yourself at night in Stab City?
And you're like, I was wondering why I got stabbed 6 times.
Oh, I thought they didn't like
weird.
me, but they do that for everyone.
That's their local custom. So thank you, Christina. I would like to thank now from Preston here in Victoria, Shannon Bowler.
Bowler.
Shannon Bowler. Shannon is the...
What about the...
Tremendous.
Ooh,
Oh,
great
that's
word.
good. Trapeze.
Artist? Or just
Yeah.
actual trapeze?
People
The
jump.
human trapeze.
Yeah, well, the tremendous trapeze, in brackets, human trapeze.
Wow. Which one's the
Cool.
trapeze again? Is that the one where you're sort of flipping around?
Flipping around on like the little, little flying fox style stuff.
Wow.
I would absolutely do trapeze.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I tried to do monkey bars for the first time in a long time recently, and whatever strength you need to do them is not there anymore.
Yeah, it's wasted on kids, I reckon.
So I'm like, all right, I'm getting some sort of a chin up bar, and I'm going to work. I got to be able to reclaim the monkey bars. I mean, I host one of the world's top 5 primate based podcasts. I need to be able to do the monkey bars.
I believe it's also, it probably requires a fair bit of core strength. You might need to do some ab work.
Yeah, I've been doing ab work. I've been doing planks every 2 out of 3 days.
That's good.
Side planks, they suck. Well, they did.
Yep.
They're getting easier, but at first I couldn't do it for 10 seconds.
Mm.
Yeah. Anyway, this is fun chat.
I've just looked up the Merriam-Webster dictionary. The word, you can say trapeze artist, you can also say trapezist. So can I change that to the tremendous trapezist?
Yeah, that
Yeah,
sounds
love that.
great. I love that.
Great.
Trapezist.
That sounds cool.
And then, so it's the sort of one where you're hanging, it's like like a pole, and you're hanging, and each end is
Like a little
connected to
swing you hang on to. Yeah.
Swing.
Yeah.
The swing you hang onto is, I was never going to get there. I don't know how I made that so difficult. Anyway, would you believe it? Me making something sound more confusing than it is? Well, that brings us to the end of.
I believe I have one more, right?
Oh, do we have time for one more?
Yeah, all right. We've got time for we've got time for one more. I'd like to thank from South Shields in Tyne and Weir, Great Britain. It is Jamie Collins. What have I set you up and you finished it off, Bob?
Yeah.
The Big
Piper.
Oh,
Ooh.
I like it.
Yeah, Big Piper's good.
That's good. The Big Piper.
Like
from
we think of
Tyne and
bagpipes?
Weir.
Bagpipes, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Love
I'm a
that.
fantastic instrument. You don't want to live next door to someone who plays it, but still.
No. It's fresh in my mind because I looked up what do you call a bagpipe player just last week, because someone, I opened up questions on my Instagram story, and someone said, who should I listen to first as a foreigner, John Farnham or Jimmy Barnes? And I said, start with John Farnham. Sorry, Matt. And then I shared a video of John Farnham playing at my work Christmas party a few years ago, and how they had someone come out just to play bagpipes for 10 seconds and then leave. I was like, how much did work pay for this? This is insane.
Yeah. Any chance you
There
can
was
just
a
bump our
piper.
pay up a little?
Yeah. We don't have to have this Christmas party,
I'd love some sick leave, but no.
I like Farnsey too. I'm a big Barnsey fan, obviously, but I'm
Yeah.
also partial. Mum brought me up on a bit of Farnsey as a kid as well. So I've seen
I just
Farnsey
think-
a few times in concert. I saw him once where he did a double headline show with Lionel Richie.
Oh, wow.
What, do they do any songs together?
They did. I can't remember what it was, but and Farnsey was on first. Lionel closed it out, and I got to tell you, Farnsey blew Lionel off the stage.
Whoa.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Obviously, both legends of the game,
Yeah.
of the pop music game. Yeah. So, the Big Piper, I like that a lot. It sounds like one of Australia's big things.
Yeah.
And that only leaves us with a few Triptych Club inductees to talk about. And the way you get involved in this is staying on the shout-out level of our Patreon supporter group for 3 years, and then you get brought into this very exclusive club. I'm standing out the front. I'm about to lift that velvet rope. There's a few people waiting on the red carpet. Dave's inside. He's going to hype you up as I read your name. Jess is going to hype him up. Jess has also worked on some hors d'oeuvres, a few cocktails, and Dave's booked a band. Who have we got here for all the Triptych Club members?
We got the music of Sting.
Whoa! Performed by who?
Performed by Sting, luckily.
Oh,
Okay.
He's covering himself.
That was quite a hard get. He wanted to play other stuff these days. He actually asked if he could bring out Shaggy because they did an album together last year. I said absolutely not. So Shaggy's still at home.
Oh,
so it's just
Shaggy.
Sting solo and also some of the Police hits as well.
All right.
When Sting went up to Shaggy to tell him the news, and he said, "Did it?"
This is so good. Here we go. We know where you're going. Come on.
Yes.
Here we go. What happened, Matt?
Let's
Please
go, Matty.
tell the
Come on,
story.
what happened?
Come on, paint that picture.
And Shaggy, obviously, he was the one who was talking to Dave. And Shaggy went up to Sting and said, "Dave Warnicky booked one of us for the Triptych Club." And Sting goes, "Oh, which one of us did he book?" And Shaggy said, "It wasn't me."
And Shaggy said, "Was it Mr. Bombastic?"
Mr. Rovalova. I'm recalling those lyrics
That was
correctly.
quite a story, Matt. Thank you so much for
amazing.
that.
Well
That is
done.
exactly how it happened. So a peek behind the velvet rope and the curtain there. But Sting, Fields of Gold, he hits the stage.
Oh, what
about
a
9
tune.
o'clock
Love
for his
that
first set.
tune.
Second set, 11:30. He really gets the beat going. You know, it's a late night, Saturday night thing.
wow.
Does some of his police work,
Yeah.
as in he starts to, check IDs and stuff.
Yeah. So he's on the door as well.
Yeah. Oh, but Fields of Gold. I'd forgotten about that song. That's fantastic. That's a great song. Covered beautifully by, can't remember her name, but it's a,
Oh, God, I know what you mean. So good. I don't know what you mean. But
and Jess, what kind of hors d'oeuvres have we got?
Well, this week we've got a classic Aussie barbecue. I got a couple of barbies on the go. We got some of my dad's classic potatoes.
Oh.
Just
I'll,
slices them up real thin, makes
Yes.
chips out of
I
them.
love that.
Yum.
I love barbecues that are you just chuck anything on and
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
You could barbecue anything and it's so good. But potatoes,
it's
great.
got-
Grunions, big fan.
Oh, yeah. And, lots of different types of meat, but salads and just, help yourself.
A few veggie
Delicious.
shish kebabs.
Of course. Wouldn't be a barbecue without some shish kebabs. And drink-wise, we actually have a specialty cocktail this week called Fields of Gold.
oh, wow.
And it is vodka, passion fruit, and mango.
Oh, that sounds
Wow.
delicious. Eva
Wow.
Cassidy's who I was thinking of, the cover of Fields of Gold is quite good. Now, is that all we need to do before I start bringing them in?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go through the list. We've got a few
Well,
in this
you also
week.
have to tell the people at home what's happening in case they've never heard this before. I am the hype man for these people, and then Jess is my hype woman,
Yes.
hyping me up to hype up these guests.
Yeah.
So, and I'm
And so
I'm really glad that Andy didn't stick around for this because it is quite embarrassing.
and there's a few today, Dave. So you just need to keep believing in
holy
yourself.
shit. How many are there?
Keep the steam going.
There's more this week than there has been in quite a while, okay?
Okay.
So,
Oh my God. What did we do 3 years ago to get him in? Thanks so much, everyone.
yeah, there is. So, all right, let's go through them. These are all big names too. It was a big week for us 3 years back. From Janesville in, I'm going to say Wisconsin, WI. Janesville in the United States. It's Robert Crandall.
But he just named Krabappel. I've been calling her Crandall. Welcome in with a Simpsons quote.
From Seville East in Victoria, Australia, Terry Niehaus.
Oh, it's going to be a night house tonight.
Yeah. Woo!
I mean, from Shetland in Scotland, it's Ben Fulton.
Oh, you ain't no Fulton. You're a legend.
Yeah.
From
Woo!
Conroe in Texas, United States, Stephanie and Evan Keller.
Oh, it's Keller and Keller. Come on down. All right. Yeah.
From Brisbane in Queensland, Australia, it's Millie Soff.
Oh, well, how do you spell that?
SOF.
Oh, I was going to say, yeah, because it's not going to be a soft night. It's going to be a hard night. We're going to go all night. All right. Woo!
From Spokane in Washington, the United States, Matthew Dennis.
Oh, I thought it wasn't going to be a good night, but I Spokane too soon. It's going to be a great night. Yeah.
Yes!
From Bentonville in, I think, Arkansas in the United States, is Paul Valentine.
Oh, will you be my Paul Valentine?
Yes!
And a couple more from Ferny Hills in Queensland, Australia. It's Alice Joy.
Okay. Oh, you bring us a lot of joy.
Yes!
And finally, from Derry in Ulster, Great Britain, Northern Ireland, I reckon. It's C-I-A-N. Sean?
Sean.
From Derry in Ulster, it's Sean Lanigan.
Woo! Derry girl is here. Yeah. All right.
Yes!
Woo! Thank you so much, everyone, for putting up with that.
Oh my God, Dave needs a nap now. You must be wiped.
It's so hard to be in the zone for that long.
I know.
Fuck.
But you did so well.
So if you want to
Well
get
done.
involved, you can do so at patreon.com/DoGoOnPod. Link in the show notes. And yeah, once you sign up, you get all sorts of bonus rewards for keeping the lights on here at the show, keeping us running. Our patrons are the ones who've meant that we've been able to do this show for 263 weeks in a row now. Well, that's not quite right, is it? 200, because we did 3 that first week. But you know what
That's
I mean.
right.
263 episodes without missing a week. And if you want to get involved, please do. You get bonus episodes. There's 3 per month now. You also get voting privileges. You also get to join the Facebook group. You get discounts on our live streams, which we've got coming up. You also hear about things first.
We should also say, if you sign up really soon, and we should put a date on this, we're going to send out our annual Christmas cards soon.
Oh, yeah. We should say maybe 1 week, I reckon, because we got to get onto it soon.
Yeah, we normally say the 1st of November, but we have missed
We'll
that.
extend by a week. What
do we say?
Yeah.
If you sign up by November the 11th, which is our 5th anniversary of when those first 3 episodes came out.
Remember.
Well, it actually is Remembrance Day November in Australia. So if you sign up by November 11, and all the details are on the website, we will send you a Christmas card to wherever you are in the world.
Yep.
Different every year. Some people this will be their 5th one, right?
Yeah, I'd love to see some photos of people if anyone's collecting them all. Imagine. And everyone's like, oh, this is embarrassing, Matt. We chuck them out straight away.
Almost immediately, yeah.
But yeah, that's cool. Look, we've started the last few years. We've started to outsource the artwork to some sort of friend of the show. I don't think we'll get onto all that soon. Good reminder.
Yeah, thanks everyone. You reminded us good.
So yeah, but it always looks great. And yeah, it's nice. I fucking love Christmas, as you two know. I mean, Dave is the festive boy. On pod, off pod. I'm the festive man. I fucking love Christmas so much. I went to the shops for the first time in ages recently. They've already got the Christmas stuff up and people complain about that. I'm like, fucking yes. Here it comes.
No,
a third of the year
I bought
is
a Christmas tree
Woo!
like a month ago. I'm really excited.
Oh, man. I love Christmas. Love it. I just love the joy it brings.
Yeah.
I love saying, what day is it, sir? You there, boy. No, I did that in reverse. It's a real flip on the classic where the boy becomes the old Grinch guy. Yeah. All right, so...
Yeah, thank you so much for listening. And thanks again to Andy for joining us and doing such a great report. One more time, it's sospresents.com if you want to stream or download, watch at any time is what I'm trying to say. Magma, his great comedy show. And also if you want to get tickets to our 4 live streams coming up really, really soon. So it's a live podcast and then also an hour of something else afterwards, an extra show that no one else will see.
And yeah, if you do watch Magma, tell us about it. We'd love to hear what you reckon, assuming it's positive.
Please only positive.
Please only positive.
Yeah.
We don't need to hear your fucking negative bullshit. Much love to you all.
All right, wrap it up here. Thanks so much. Everything that we ever talk about is at dogoonpod.com. But until next week, I'll say thank you and goodbye.
Later.
Bye.
This podcast is part of the Planet Broadcasting Network.
Visit planetbroadcasting.com for more podcasts from our great mates.
I mean, if you want. It's up to you.